Our Across the Aisle segment tonight. In Canada, it's now a hate crime to misgender someone. Last week, the Canadian Senate passed a bill which puts gender identity and gender expression into the hate crime category of its criminal code. Before this bill passed, University of Toronto professor Jordan Peterson pledged not to use compelled pronouns, insisting that it infringes on freedom of speech and is being used to push a radical political ideology. Peterson has been the target of protests because of this, and since he began speaking out, has been denied grant funding by the university for the first time in his career. Watch.
We've had laws passed in this country that regulate what people can say, what people can't say, and that's reasonable. But it seems to me that we're in danger of crossing a line. With Bill C-16 and its surrounding legislation, it's the first time I've seen in our legislative history where people are attempting to make us speak their language. And that's not something that I'm willing to do. Now, the radical left activists are trying to turn this into an argument about sexual politics. And it's only nominally about sexual politics. It's about language that's designed to control our freedom of expression.
Joining me now, professor and author of Obama's America, a transformative vision of our national identity, Ian Reifowitz. Ian, good to see you.
Always good to be here, Liz.
All right, Ian, this is compelled speech. As you heard the professor in that video say, this is compelled speech. You could be fined or you could be thrown in jail if you misgender someone, if you use the incorrect gender pronoun here. My question to you, Ian, as a college professor and as someone who identifies as an American liberal, do you consider a bill such as this one to be a victory?
I would consider a bill as described by Professor Peterson and as described by you to be pretty awful. But I have some good news for you and your viewers. That law does not exist. Brenda Kosman, who is a professor at the University of Toronto Law School, analyzed the law and is stated pretty clearly that, at least in her reading of it, which was pretty straightforward, that Professor Peterson is exaggerating the effects of the bill. The bill does three things specifically. One is that it bans discrimination by the government or large institutions like banks. It bans institution on the basis of gender identity, just as it already previously had done on the basis of race, religion, etc. The only issue in terms of use of pronouns is that a person might be able to claim that the government has a responsibility to address them by their proper pronoun, or an employer has a responsibility to do so. And
right.
If they fail to do so, they maybe could be fined, but nobody's going to jail over this. The other two things that the law does.
I mean, what you just said is pretty troubling. I mean, think about a scenario where a small business owner hires an employee, and then this employee tells them that they identify their gender as a Mexican wolf, and they want to have a break, not to smoke a cigarette, not to go to the bathroom, not to make a phone call to their children, but they want a break to go howl at the moon. Is that tolerant?
First of all, Mexican wolves only howl at the sunlight. No, I'm kidding, sorry. But look, I think this is if the law were interpreted in the way in which you're talking about here, I would have a lot of problems with it. That's not how it's going to be interpreted. Just to finish out, the other two things that it does is it puts gender identity along with race and religion, etc., as one of the categories that makes it eligible for extra sentencing for a hate crime. But of course, that has to go with another actual crime first. The hate itself is not the crime. Right. It has to be an assault or a violent act. And then the third thing is that in Canada, they have a law that you can't advocate for genocide or incite hatred against somebody on the basis of race, religion, etc. Gender identity falls into that category. Nobody is going to be handing out large sums of money against a small business owner who says he instead of they. And if they do, I will be the first one to join you in protest.
No, because I think that's what's going to happen. I'm not trying to be too fatalistic here. I'm not trying to fall down the slippery slope, but that's the purpose of crafting a law like this. And I don't understand, I guess, why liberals in Canada are rejoicing, why they're celebrating this law, because liberals claim to be tolerant, and to be tolerant, doesn't that entail that you're tolerant of speech, even speech that you find to be offensive?
Well, I would agree with that. It does mean that you have to be tolerant of speech that you find offensive, but the purpose of the law is not going to be to ban the use of pronouns by random individuals or small business owners.
That's what one of the
Trans
stipulations does. It says that it is illegal for the government or for someone else, a business owner or an employer, not to use the same gender pronoun. I mean, I don't understand why you're not seeing that that's the government telling the people that they must use a certain word or they're going to be criminally liable for that.
They're not going to be criminally liable. There's a very important distinction there. Nobody's going to jail. The law is very clear, according to the professor, there are no criminal charges, a possibility of criminal charges here. Just as in this country, when discrimination is illegal, and when people sue for discrimination, the person who is, or the institution that is found to have discriminated, they don't go to jail. They pay a fine. People can sue for discrimination in this country as well. And one-off instances of insensitivity in the office are never, ever leading to large financial penalties for institutions.
Right, the compelled speech part. The compelled speech part is the part that's important here. Doesn't it bother you, as a liberal who claims to be tolerant, that the government is coming in under whatever guise you want to talk about and saying, you have to use this specific term because we told you that you have to do it? Does the idea of compelled speech, which is innately built into this bill, we know that's what it'll be used for, doesn't that trouble you on a large level?
It troubles me tremendously, but that's not what this bill is for. Trans people are beaten, are victims of violent crime at a disproportionate level. This is one more way to offer some protection to them. This is about discrimination. Can you be fired for being transgender? Can you be denied housing because you're transgender? That's what this law is about. It's about placing transgender identity or gender identity on the same level as race, religion, and other categories.
It's really not. And it's insulting, honestly, from liberals in Canada to suggest that, violence against transgenders or the suicide rate of transgenders has to do with someone misgendering them, calling them by the wrong gender pronoun. That's an insult to the psyche of transgender people who I don't think are triggered that easily, like it or not. And I wouldn't do it purposely because it's insulting to someone else, and I respect the dignity of all people. But like it or not, that's why we have free speech. We have free speech because people say offensive things, and they need to have that right protected. If it weren't about offensive speech, then we wouldn't even need to have it because we'd all agree.